Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Firefly. Episode 5 is called Safe. Full spoilers for the episode as always. And now, starting this episode actually, these Firefly reviews are brought to you by one of our patrons. Keith Beard is sponsoring these episodes, so thank you to him. Safe. This is the episode where the crew go to the planet. I liked a bit of continuity here, actually, where they still had the cows from last episode.
Well, sure, yeah.
That was a neat little touch. Although, of course, they never aired in this order when they actually aired on Fox. But
so people just like, oh, I guess they picked up cows between episodes.
Which works. I mean, that's fine. But
yeah, it does. Oh, you wouldn't question it.
But yeah, it's the cows they got from last episode. And they do reference that Badger got them the job as well, actually. Which again, we saw last episode. So that's neat. So this one, we get a little bit more of River and Simon and their past. We get some flashbacks in this episode to their backstory. Kind of solidifies a little bit of that. And the episode's largely about them. There's also some big teases for Shepherd Book.
Yes.
As to the nature of his past. A lot more mysterious. Got some theorizing to do about that. Well, not theorizing because I know, but you know what I mean. Talk about the
friendly speculation.
Yes. Well, what's funny is, technically the answer is more of something that happened just in interviews after the movie came out. So we'll talk about that in the movie review as to what he really is. Yeah. But worth mentioning. We start off with a flashback with Simon and River as kids, and it kind of shows us how intelligent and brainy River was. Correcting Simon's spelling and correcting, I think it's even the textbook. Like he's like studying, and she's like, "No, the book's got it wrong. It's this." And it sets up the relationship they have with their parents, with their father. Doesn't really want to get them this fancy new computer. That was like some made up thing.
Yeah.
But he's like
some technology.
Yeah, but no, I'll not let my son not have the best of the best. So no, we'll get it. But we cut harshly to present day, where River's screaming because she doesn't want Simon to do any more tests. It doesn't want any needles put in her or anything like that. She's freaking out, being very loud. And Mal comes by to kind of like, hey, can you
sort her out?
Can you quiet her down a little bit? You know, spooking the cows. Which Simon tries to argue that it's like, well, she's not been near the cows. Well, no, but her voice tends to carry a bit. You know,
it's loud, yeah.
On the loud side. And she says something really morbid. She says the human body can be drained of blood in 8.6 seconds, given the proper vacuum equipment or something like that. And Mal just sort of goes, well, yeah, morbid I'm fine with, as long as she does it quiet, like, you know, afterwards she can, you know, bleed us all to death. Although I'd take it as a kindness if she didn't. You know, just, you know, typical Mal humor. But yeah, so they're on the planet to drop off the cows and sell them to some ruffians. And there's cow poop everywhere, like all over the ramp.
There is. And we'll get some nice haggling going on. Who doesn't love a good haggle?
There's some good haggling. I actually love that Book comes over and he's like, "Is there a problem, Mal?" Because he's interested. He's it's like he's taking, because if you remember a couple episodes ago, he just stayed in the ship and didn't get involved at all with anything. And obviously this is just the haggling part of selling the product, but he's taking a little bit more of an interest. He's like, "Do we have a problem, Mal?" And he's like, "Nah, not really." And I don't, you know, because I think he's like 30 ahead, and then the guy's like, "Nah, 20 ahead. I'm malnutritioned." And he's like, "Nah, in about 5 minutes from now we'll agree on 25. It's fine. I've already accepted we're going to 25. We have to do the dance. We have to do the dance to get there."
Yeah. That's how haggling works.
Yeah. So that's good. But there's a funny line from Jane actually, where Jane's like whipping the cows to get off the ship, and Mal's like, you know, they go just as easy if you just lead them. He's like, "I like to smack him."
Of course he does.
Because Jane be Jane. So yeah. What I actually liked here, there's a little moment here in this scene that I really liked with River and Mal actually, because River comes out and she's like sort of talking to the cows, and which sounds weird.
About how, you know, they, you know, because I think someone says, "Oh, you know, well, you didn't spend any time with the cows when they were on the ship."
Yeah, and she says something along the lines of, "Yeah, because there weren't cows in there, but now they're on the ground and they see the sky and they remember what they were." And Mal goes, "Is it strange that what she just said to me makes complete sense?"
Yeah.
Um, and I like that because it was kind of like, as weird as what it was, the way she phrased it. He actually understands that because that's kind of his mentality with things. Like, he doesn't feel like he's himself unless he's, in the sky. Like,
Yeah. Pulling a scam.
yeah, pulling a scam, whatever else. So basically they split up because Mal doesn't want River around, and they get sent off to town where Anara and Kaylee are also just snooping around,
Shopping,
seeing what all the little stores have got in stock.
yes,
And
a lot of tat.
yes, a lot of crap, which Simon also agrees with. But unfortunately, we just heard Kaylee say that she was thinking of buying this little commemorative plate for Simon because it looked fancy and rich, and then he insults it. Not knowing that she said that before, of course. He's not been a complete dick yet. He is a complete dick, however, when he starts talking about how awful the life is, like being on a ship like like Serenity. And, Kaylee gets all upset and is like, well, if you don't think much of this life, you can't really think of much of those who choose it then, can't you? And he tries to back walk a little bit. He's like...
And she's having none of it.
No, she doesn't. She really doesn't. And it's a heartbreaking scene because Kaylee's attraction to Simon's kind of one of the little hearts of the show, because it's kind of this little... Because you have Mal and Anara, but Mal and Anara is more of like a sexy tension. Kaylee and Simon is a bit more of an innocent kind of... I don't want to say crush, because it's a bit more than that, especially as things go on, but...
Yeah.
It's different. It feels different to the other one. So I mean that works. But so we get some interesting stuff here where we have River, who sort of wanders off, and Simon goes chasing after her, and she kind of encounters there's like a little fair going on, and there's like a little dancing kind of up in the I don't know, it's in a tent basically.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a platform.
A little bit of platform. It's kind of I would say it's like a Kaylee, but I mean no one else will know what. No, I mean you'll know what that means probably, but no one else. No, you don't. This is a Scottish thing.
That's a full Scottish one. It's
a Scottish thing. I thought it may also be Irish, and then you might have a chance of... Not that you're Irish, for anyone, because some people have thought you're Irish in comments. So I don't want to spread.
Yeah, well, a lot of people also think I'm Scottish for some reason.
Even though you sound nothing like me.
No. I have a very plain accent, and people just assume I'm from whoever I'm next to. Like I get this at work, where I'm not from where I live now. And I'll be stood next to someone with a local accent, and people will just go, "Oh, you're from here as well." I'm like, "No, completely different part of the country."
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, Achilles just a thing where people go and dance, but it's like a townsfolky dancing kind of thing. It's not like it's like everyone's getting involved in swapping partners. It's not a romantic thing. It's like, and that's kind of what this is. And what this scene does that's really effective is that it shows how good River is at picking things up. Because she sort of wanders into the dance floor and she's kind of looking around and she's just kind of like, it's almost like she's just calculating in her head. She's looking around and just like understanding it. And then there's this moment that it clicks and she starts dancing.
And she's off, yeah.
And she's just dancing with everyone else like she's just an expert at it. And it's really good. And Simon gets to watch this, and it's like he's seeing her be kind of herself again for the first time, and since he's maybe broke her out of, evil school prison. And like, it's a sweet moment. But then also it shows her abilities when the other thing happens and goes wrong at the deal, because when Book gets shot, because it's not even that there's a fight breaks out with the deal, it's just the cops show up because the other guys are wanted for some murder or something like that.
Yeah, something else entirely.
Yeah. Again, do you know what's funny is that this was actually from Serenity, but when I was watching this again, I was really expecting Mal to as he has his hands up and he's like, "Oh, you just want them." Like, I was really expecting him to go, "Is there a reward?" Like, I expected him to do that, but it's actually in the first episode. It's such a similar moment where he puts his hands up and it's not for him that I was expecting him to say it. But that's what it is. But so as soon as they realize that the Book is shot, River starts freaking out, and River starts like, going like something's wrong, and Simon has to come and get her. And then, of course, not long after this, or during this even, they get nabbed. Simon gets a sack over his head. It turns out there's townsfolk in the hill that kidnap people who are good or who are certain tradesmen. In this case, a doctor that they need.
Doctors are useful.
Doctors are pretty useful, as we see in Serenity when Book's been shot and there's no doctor around.
And they're like, Mal will sort it, maybe, I guess. He's seen some shit, he'll manage.
My note for River's dancing scene was River still got it.
That's your note.
That's my note.
I don't know why you bother.
Little touch actually when the shootout breaks out with the other guys is that they drop the coin sack and Mal goes to grab it in the middle of the fight, but when he goes to grab it there's literally blood on the sack, and I just thought it was a really simple little symbolic thing. There's literally blood in the money.
Yeah, and there's the moment that when they're carrying off Book, Jane goes, "Hey, have you got the money?"
Yeah.
And Mal's like, "That's not important right now."
It's not important right now, but he did still go to grab the money. I mean, this was before he knew Book was shot, admittedly, but it's symbolic of, there's always blood spilled over. It's where his
priorities were, though, isn't
it? So then we get the next flashback after they get nabbed, and this is Simon with the letters, River's letters, where he's convinced us, and we'd heard this from the pilot, and you could argue that this is again Joss Whedon putting in the not that he wrote this episode, admittedly, but that them putting in the information that was in the pilot and trying to squeeze it in somewhere else again. Admittedly, though, I don't think this one feels forced. It doesn't feel. This just feels that no, we're getting to see it actually play out, and because we still get new information here, because we get how his parents react to it and how they discount it and how they wave it off as there's nothing wrong. Like, oh, you're being silly, Simon. Like, no, you're just playing games. She's not in trouble. Even though she's writing down her letter. Oh, did you enjoy this family's ball this year? And it's like no one anyone's ever heard of. Like, we don't know anyone but that.
They're very nonchalant, aren't they, the parents?
Yeah. Very... They do very much strike me as what I think of as really conservative, like, upper... Not even middle class, like, probably first,
Upper class?
Upper class, that's the phrase I was looking for. Just upper. No middle, just upper. But they remind me kind of what I think of as very upper class conservative people, in that they'll just kind of, hand wave things because it's convenient to do so.
Yeah.
I was getting that kind of
stereotypical.
Yeah. But he's determined to prove that something's wrong. So... Yeah, so there's stuff in the Serenity after this where they're debating what to do, and someone suggests that, I think maybe Jane, that maybe Simon just was a coward. He just ran off because he saw the police and they just ran away. And he's like, hey, and Mal's like, no, Simon may be a lot of things, but he's never struck me as a coward. He's not that. So I think. Obviously, we'll come back around this again to the end when kind of Simon asked him a question at the end, but just kind of a respect that's forming, even though they're not like each other, they don't necessarily like each other as people that much, but there is a respect there in some level. But they do leave to see it save Book, and there's a little bit of dark humor here where Simon's literally just saying to River, "Don't worry, the guys will see that we're missing, and they'll come and find us," and then they see the ship fly off in the sky. Really funny stuff. But yeah, so
it's worth knowing that when they fly off, they know that Simon's been kidnapped at this point, don't they? Yeah.
Because Wash goes out to try and find him. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and he learns about the hill people, and they're like, well, we could do the dog, but they're like, right, no, we haven't got time for that. Tough shit, he'll have to just handle himself. Yeah,
obviously the eventual twist here is that Mal always intended in coming back and getting them. It was just that Book needs help quick enough that they can't wait and find him. They have to go and help Book first.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of scenes of Book being delirious and whatnot. Here's something. So just before they leave, actually, or just after they leave, and Anara comes onto the bridge here to talk to Mal and sort of debate with him. No, we have to go back and get Simon. He needs a doctor. And this leads to Mal deciding to take them to the big Alliance ship, the Alliance cruiser, which I don't have to call it a death thingy anymore, because it's called a cruiser. So Alliance cruiser. What were the big ships of Star Wars called that I compared it to in the first episode?
Star Destroyers.
Star Destroyer. Yeah, I don't have to call it that anymore. It's an Alliance cruiser. We have an official name.
I can't believe you couldn't even get through like a month remembering the names to the start. You revert to death thingy.
But the main thing about this scene, though, that I want to point out, based on our previous conversations, is that when Inara comes on to the bridge, Mal says, "Inara, I don't recall inviting you to the bridge. It's a bridge, not a
He's
cockpit.
wrong. It's a cockpit.
It's not a cockpit. We have official
It's a
terminology.
small closed-off area. It's a cockpit.
It's a goddamn bridge."
They're just wrong.
I've got it in all caps. All caps.
I bet you do.
Bridge. 3 exclamation points. He said bridge. See that? See that?
I mean, it's all backwards, so not really.
You can tell it. You can see the word. You can see it for
I
me.
actually couldn't. I didn't quite get to that, but sure.
People at home, pause it. You can see it.
You don't waste your time. It's fine. Look, it's a technical mistake. Mal just doesn't know the ship as well as he thinks he does.
So Jane raids Simon's room and all this. He thinks they're gone for good, so he actually helps himself to his belongings.
Yeah.
That's some funny stuff where he's like reading the diary and he adds some extra stuff. But yeah, so Kaylee comes to see Book, and there's a nice little touch here because this actually again flips something from the pilot, where she was shot and Book came by her side. So it's this really neat thing. There's a really funny line here from Zoe though, where she's, because Kaylee's like, "Oh, so but the captain's got a plan, right? Everyone's going to be okay, right?" And Zoe says, "Possibly you're not recalling some of his previous plans."
Yeah.
I like that.
Just because he has a plan does not mean that things are well in hand.
Yeah, no, I like that. Do you know what's funny about this episode, actually, is I came into this one thinking I'd have the least amount of notes so far, because I remember this episode being fairly simple. I actually have more than I did for the last couple of episodes.
How?
I don't know. I think I was just being more thorough with like just making sure I was noting down scenes so that I just in case I forgot a scene, it would be here on the page.
Right. Okay.
I guess that's what it is. I don't know. But yeah, so I think it's worth. So we go back to Simon and River. They're at the town now that they've been taken to, and very quickly there's a lot of sick people. And Simon obviously does voice his concern that they've been kidnapped at various intervals.
And his first reaction is, "Shit, is this a plague?"
It's like, "Shit, yeah, are we going to die here?" But it is worth mentioning that very quickly he rolls up his sleeves and he's like, "Okay, I'm a doctor, damn it. I'm going to do it."
Yeah.
You know, he does go to work. He is willing to be what he took an oath to be. He does care about people. You know, and he does complain a bit later again that he was kidnapped and, you know, points that out. But, like, he is willing to save people. So, again, it's pointing to his character. It's pointing to who he is as a character. So, they arrive at the Alliance cruiser. They're not very happy about being there. And
very fidgety.
Yeah, Alliance come on board. And they're like, "Okay, you read your papers, right?" And they hand them their little like satchel with the papers in it. And the guy looks at it, he's like, "Okay, Captain Baccarin." I was like, that wasn't how he pronounced it, but I wrote down what he said. It was Baccarin. And it made me laugh. It's a really funny moment just because you're like, yeah, that's not his name.
No.
That's good stuff.
It's like, oh, you know, it's been a while since we've needed the papers.
But the big thing in this scene, though, the juicy thing, because there's juice to be had in this scene, is Book, who's delirious and kind of half out of it, is just kind of like, "My ID," right? So one of the Alliance soldiers goes over and takes out his ID, gives it to his superior officer, and he's like, "Get this man to the infirmary right now." Because it's worth mentioning, before this, when they're just asking for aid for a random person, they're like, "Hey, we need help." He's like, "No, our medical facilities are for Alliance personnel and important people only. This is not a hospital. This is, you know, only for people who are within our system, who are deemed appropriate with that benefit." And he takes one look at his ID and says, "Get this man to the infirmary." So this is the big thing in the show. Maybe one of the few only things where it's like, Book has a past. Like, who was he before he became a shepherd?
Yeah, because obviously we don't get any sort of answer in this. You know, Mal confronts him. Confronts is maybe a bit harsh, but you know, he comes up to him about it. It's like, it's like, "Hey, right, what the hell's going on?" And you know, Book's like, "Maybe one day."
Yeah, I the key line there as well is he said, would you like to tell me about this? And he says, I surely would, and maybe one day I will.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that he wants to like get off his chest in some way, but obviously he's not ready to do it yet. Like,
Yeah.
Maybe gives you the idea that his current sort of man of God kind of path is part of a redemptive mission. It's a redemptive journey that he's on. So, that's interesting. It poses a lot of questions, and even Mal and Zoe are kind of theorizing about it as they're watching him being operated on. But of course, the other side of the episode is River. It mentions that she's guilty for taking Simon away from his life. The idea that he gave up everything to come and rescue her, that he's standing in society, his job, his reputation, all of it just went like that. And he's, he basically is like, no, like it's worth it. And I think the flashback we get right after this, where Simon's been arrested for trying to like break in somewhere to like find out where she is, and the dad's like, no, if you keep pursuing this, like we're going to disown you. And he's basically the whole point of the scene is that Simon is willing to do that. He's willing to give up everything to save his sister. And this is one of the main themes of the episode, and one of the main things we learn about him. And a couple of key things from River here in this scene, though, some dialogue. She mentions that she remembers things that she never knew, secrets, which I particularly noted down because we can't really talk about this much because this is more to do with the movie. But I think it's really, and obviously where the movie went was always where the show was planning to go anyway. But I think it is very neat that even in episode 5 here, that line, remembering things, secrets, is very relevant to the movie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's very built in for the movie. But then the other thing here, again, showing her like ability here. We won't be here long. Daddy will come and get us, and it'll get better. Now, admittedly, it could be a memory she's having, but all in the daddy phrase, that also describes what's going to happen with the Serenity crew.
I think it's almost like a Freudian slip. Daddy is Mal. He's the daddy of the ship.
Sure, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. But yeah, so from a plot perspective, though, she basically has information about this little girl who's mute, and it leads to the revelation that she has read a mind, and therefore she is a witch. This is, one of those
so
towns.
Burn them at the stake.
Yeah, and the leader of the town comes out, because the woman rings the bell, the nurse rings the bell, and he's like,
They've got a witch bell.
Yeah, they've got a witch bell. And he's like, what's all this commotion? It's like, she's a witch. It's like, oh, I'm sure that's not true. Is it, child? And River's like, oh, you're the leader. It's like, that's right. It's like, yes, because the previous leader was in his bed and you were alone with him and you wanted to, and he just slaps her. It's like, she's a witch! Burn her at the stake.
This might be my favorite scene of the episode because it's straight out of Monty Python.
Really?
Oh yeah. This is it's straight out of Holy Grail. She's a witch, but it's brilliant.
It made me laugh though in a really dark way.
Yeah. It's straight out of that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually after the flashback, because I wrote down witch when the woman accused her, and then after the flashback I wrote down double witch.
That's some thorough note taking there.
I know. Right. So we talked about book being questioned.
Yeah.
But so the big thing though is that they're going to burn River at the stake, and they don't want to burn Simon. They want a doctor. But Simon gets up in the post with her and says, "No, you're going to have to burn me too. Light it." And again, much like the flashbacks, much like the previous conversations, he's willing to go down for his sister, and he's not willing to let her go alone. So not that I think we were questioning that he was loyal or that he was, dedicated to helping his sister before this, but this episode really made it clear that he is willing to lose everything to help her. This is how close they are as siblings.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think you would do this for your brothers.
God, no.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
You get the marshmallows out, most likely. I'm an only child. I can't comment on my
There's a lot.
My feelings on this.
I'm not saying I want them to burn at the stake, but there's no way I'm joining them.
Yeah, but again, Rivers knows what's coming because right before this happens, right before they actually set them on fire, she says it's time to go, basically implying Serenity's about to arrive. Yeah. And sure enough, it arrives overhead. Jane's hanging from the cargo hold with the shotgun, and then in walks Zoe and Mal, which actually gives us one of the most quotable lines of the whole show, which was used, it was used for one of the documentaries made about, getting the movie made and all the rest of it, where, big damn heroes. What does that make us, Zoe? Big damn heroes, sir. Ain't we just? Yeah. So people latched out of that line. So it's a good line. I can't deny.
It's a good line.
And then even the part after that where we're taking these two with us is like, but she's a witch. Yeah, but she's our witch. Also good line. Yeah, and then the final note I've got here, other than Jane, rushedly pouring all of Simon's belongings back in his room before he runs out and goes, nice to have you back on the ship. And then just walks off. It's the scene between Mal and Simon. It's the big scene of the episode, and I love this scene because it's so simple, and Simon thinks it should be more complicated, but the beauty of it is that for Mal it's not complicated. He's like, why did you come back and get us? You don't even like me. You're part of my crew. Yeah, but you don't like me. You're part of my crew. Why are we still talking about this? Food's in 5. Come on. And what I love about it, because what this episode's really about, outside of showing us what it means to Simon to save his sister, is that he lost everything in doing so. He lost his home. And at the end of the episode, he realizes, he didn't know this before, but he realizes that he's actually somehow found another home. It might not be this perfect home, it might not be the home that he came from, it might not be this perfect situation, but there's people there who actually give a shit about him. And the fact that Mal says, you're part of my crew, I'm not going to leave you behind, is like, no, this is more than what his father did.
It is, yeah.
So to go back to River calling him daddy, in a way, he just kind of became daddy.
He did, yeah.
So now Simon's going to call him daddy. Fan fiction in the making. I'm sure it already exists somewhere.
I'm confident it exists because fan fiction.
Yes. So I was listening to a Buffy podcast this past little while, and I discovered through this podcast I discovered there exists from Buffy Cordelia on Cordelia fan fiction.
Why does this not surprise me in the slightest?
I know there's a lot of weird fan fiction, but it never occurred to me that people would make like weird time travel plots so that the characters could have sex with themselves. I just never assumed. I never got to that.
I assume you immediately went and read it after listening to this.
I did. I've never read a piece of fan fiction in my damn life.
To be fair, you barely read anything. You barely read actual fiction, let alone fan fiction.
Look, I keep up with a lot of media, right? I don't have time for books.
Yeah, I'm sensing excuses. Uncultured swine.
Oh dear. But there's a sweet moment at the end of the episode, and we end with a shot of them all at dinner as a crew. Which, again, neatly actually kind of fulfills like a mini arc almost with the pilot, because they couldn't even do this in the pilot without Jane opening his big mouth and making it awkward and he had to be sent away. Here, all 9 of them are at the table and they're having a nice dinner, and we fade to credits. It's nice. It's sweet. And the episode's made its point. So, no, really, really good. What do you think of the episode? Just in terms of quality, do you like this episode?
No, actually.
You didn't think to mention that over the previous...
Well, no, because you were. I thought, if we're not doing it at the start, we're doing it at the end.
Okay, sure.
So I thought, no point in throwing it in the middle and then.
We've done a thorough scene by scene. Okay, on you go.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt your flow. I didn't want this to be an hour long.
Okay.
No, I don't. I appreciate there's a lot of relatively important character beats in there, especially come the end. I don't think it's that actually compelling to watch or that enjoyable. Like, I found most of the flashback stuff kind of tedious. Not because it was necessarily repetitive information like the letters. I was fine with that in concept. Just in general, I thought they were kind of a bit dully shot, and overall were a bit redundant. Like, I get the point of them, but I never felt like I needed to be watching them. And then just a lot of the stuff just in the town, the hill folk, a lot of that just kind of felt a bit mediocre. It wasn't particularly compelling, but barring the, once it got to the witch stuff, because that was a highlight.
Well, bizarrely, I don't necessarily disagree with the overall sentiment. I wouldn't put it in I don't like the episode category, if that makes sense. Um, I think out of the episodes, this is on the low end of them.
I think it's my
Um,
least favorite so far.
mainly because, yeah, maybe my least favorite so far. I might like Shindig more than this now, but I think the episode, it does a lot of really good little things. It's one of the things I always talk about when I'm talking about the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, uh, and my commentaries is even when you have a slightly weaker episode in terms of what the plot's doing, the characters usually more than make up for what's going on. Typically,
I get that.
and I feel like here, not only do they make up for it, that you actually get really good character beats out of a lot of the characters, and it's definitely the actual plot of like Simon being kidnapped and going up to this town or whatever.
It's a bit hokey.
Yeah, it's a bit hokey. It's not the best plot in the show by any means, or even remotely close to it. But
Yeah.
watching it again and like watching with a critical eye, like there's a lot of really good character stuff in here.
There is. But the problem is, there's a lot of good character stuff in pretty much every episode. So this sticks out.
Well, yeah, but the point I'm making here with that though is that this is the weekend of the show.
Yeah.
Like even when some of the main plot stuff falters a little bit, if this is the weekend of the show where we still have this much character. I'm just basically saying the praises of why the show's so good, I suppose. But like
You are, yeah. And I'm trying to be a bit more objective and say, there can be bad episodes.
all this is a bad episode, though. I disagree with calling this bad.
I think it is because I think it's relatively unenjoyable to watch. When you break it down and you think about, okay, there's these character beats. There are moments that are very good for the characters, but as an episode of entertainment, I found it all not quite boring, but at points it was bordering on it for sure. I think the problem is, we got two plots and neither of them are particularly compelling. If one of them was, it's a lot more forgivable. But when both of them are kind of just, they feel like they're just treading water so we can do the character beats. That's not enough for me. I want some plot as well in my entertainment episodes.
I don't necessarily disagree with anything what you're saying. I just don't necessarily. I don't think it's as bad as what you're saying to put it into bad territory.
I don't think it's terrible. Like, it's not unwatchable bad, but it's not enjoyable either. Not particularly.
It just for it. I mean, obviously, I'm comparing this to Buffy a lot because for obvious reasons. But I feel like
To be fair, you compare everything to bloody Buffy.
yeah, but I think there's a fair comparison here where, to me, what you're describing is a lot of season 1 of Buffy. And obviously Firefly fares much better because it's so goddamn good most of the time. And it's one and only season. But what the debate we're having here is why I like an episode of Buffy like like The Pack or I, Robot, You, Jane. Like, I quite like those episodes of Buffy. And they're not necessarily arguably good episodes in an objective sense, but they're still filled with so many good character stuff that I have a blast with those episodes.
I think I can't remember the pack. I remember much more vividly. There's a lot of darkly funny things in that episode.
Sure.
Often unintentionally funny as well, admittedly. So it's not a good episode, but that's what I can get enjoyment out of that because I'm laughing a lot during that. This one I wasn't. I was a bit more bored in comparison. So while there were good character beats and interesting dynamics, in that regard, there wasn't a lot of like the pack. I'm finding it funny, whereas this one, no, not really. It's just there are some nice things going on, but not enough.
Solid 7.
Oh, God, you're worse than Matt.
That's a solid 7.
You're being generous.
I'm not being generous. That is a solid 7. Solid 7 out of 10. I'm sticking
Is
to
there
it.
an episode below a 7 out of 10 for you?
We'll find out, won't we? We'll find out. Shindig was a 7.5. Bushwhack was like a solid 8. So was the train job. Serenity was like a 9.
Yeah. Okay.
But don't worry. And there is a 10. There's a 10 in this season, and we're going to get there.
Just the one.
Just the one. There's 110.
Okay.
There's 110.
I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I don't know what your 10 is. It'll be one I won't expect it to be.
I think there's 2 episodes that most people have as a favorite, so it is one of those 2, I think. But
okay, so you're not being subversive.
Yeah, I'm not being weird with my pick. But yeah, but that's episode 5 of Firefly. That's safe. Next time we'll be looking at Our Mrs. Reynolds, so look forward to that one. Which I can't remember if it's actually written by Jane Espenson, who was one of the Buffy writers, but it definitely feels like a Jane Espenson episode. So
you'll find out when you see the credits next.
I'll find out when I see the credits next episode. But yeah, so let us know what you thought of the episode of Firefly in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month and get some extras, some bonuses, get us closer towards some goals for new content. And of course, you can sponsor, much like Keith Beard. Keith Beard. Keith Beard. Let's say I spelled with an F. Keith Beard, who sponsors the Firefly reviews. So thank you very much for watching and listening once again. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys, but curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.